I sued him. I went into federal court in Pensacola and sued the government for that breach of contract. But at the same time, I realized we needed a law that would keep this from happening again sometime. And so I talked to John McCain and said, we are looking at the idea of a TRICARE for life bill. Didn't call it that. At that time, we called it military medical care for retireds. And I said, John, would you sponsor that? He said, I will. And two Midwesterners helped us on that situation. The senator from South Dakota, Tim Johnson, got aboard. The two Senate members were John McCain and Tim Johnson, who sponsored the Senate bill. We got a bill going in the House. And after I won this case up in the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, Congress decided they were going to pass us a law that would guarantee all lifetime medical care for all of the retireds. So we now had a law that took care of us, the people I'd sued for were the World War II and Korean people. This bill guaranteed lifetime medical care for all future retirees. John McCain was the man.
First of all, I'd like to say that I have a great deal of respect for you, Senator, and I think that you have earned your right to be up there more than any of the other candidates that are on the ballot. I was in Iraq in 2004, 2005, and I hear a lot about the influx of weapons and whatnot from Iran, but the number one killer when I was in Iraq was 155 millimeter artillery rounds. Every single one of them had U.S. munitions marked on every single one of them. We lost 15 men in my unit, and I'd say at least half of them were from those 155 millimeter artillery rounds. My question is, are we learning any lessons about the proliferation of arms around the world, and we could just hand out missiles and bombs and tanks and armored personnel carriers to countries that we don't quite know what their future is? And basically, have we learned anything?
I hope that we have learned that unless you have a reliable ally and reliable accounting of weapons and munitions, that the likelihood of them ending up in enemy hands is significantly increased. I thank you for bringing up that issue. Unfortunately, the Russians are now increasing their Kalashnikov capable output, and there's an increase in the proliferation of weapons throughout the world, not just nuclear weapons. I'm talking about conventional weapons. It's infiltrating into Africa. It already has in most any place where there is some kind of conflict. I'd like to get back to you with some ideas that I have, and I thank you for your thinking about this issue in a broader perspective, and I thank you for the service and sacrifice of your comrades. I thank you. Yes, sir.
Senator, with all the illegal activity crossing the border of the United States, I've had a relative with the Border Patrol was killed by drug smugglers coming across the United States. Now, last week, my first cousin almost got shot and killed in Kansas because an illegal alien was armed to the teeth to shoot a deputy officer who was doing his job. Pulled over an illegal alien, swerving all over the road. He told him to raise his hand. He raised one hand, and then he raised his other hand, and then he wouldn't comply with the officer doing his job. Called up for backup. The illegal alien was willing to shoot my cousin, the deputy officer, and if he wouldn't have backup at the time, he would have been at the EOA. So, I mean, what are we going to do with these illegal aliens crossing the border and drug trafficking, bringing across? We need to put some kind of fence up, stop this flow of illegal activity coming in before our children will be without school and this country become a third world country.
Thank you, sir. It is an emotional and highly charged issue, and the reason why we haven't acted is because the American people no longer have trust and confidence in them, in their government. We failed in Katrina. We failed in many cases in Iraq. We failed in corruption and wasteful spending, so they no longer have confidence in us. My lesson from that last debate is that we have to secure the borders. We have to secure the borders first. As president, I would say the governors have to certify of those border states that those borders are secure. I would take a little exception about building a fence. Fence is important in many areas. In trackless areas such as the desert of Arizona, you can be much more effective with sensors, with cameras, with vehicle barriers and others. So, you know, if you build a fence, you got to have somebody man it, otherwise somebody's going to break through it or go under it. And when you've got in border areas such as we have in Arizona where it's 30 or 40 miles before they can get any place, probably surveillance, UAVs would be more effective than just building a fence. But your point is well made. We have to secure our borders. Let me just say one other thing, though, about the drug traffickers. It's tough. It's hard. The drug traffickers have taken over some cities in Mexico on their side of the borders. Corruption is great. But I also think we ought to be fully honest and have a little straight talk. It's the demand that is generated in the United States for these drugs that is pulling these drugs across the border. We've got to do a much, much, much better job in trying to educate our children and young people, particularly of the evils and the terrible aspects of using drugs. But I will secure the border first. I think we need I believe we need a temporary worker program. We need to address the people who are already here illegally. But the message I got, and I got it loud and clear, they want the border secured. I will do what's necessary to secure the borders. Thank you very much. But I think we're...
Senator McCain,
Yes, sir.
Bill Killian, Commander of the VFW here. I'm a combat infantry veteran from Vietnam. I wish to thank you and everybody for coming to this, and you have my vote. I believe you know, and through your experiences, how bad and terrible war is, that you can do our help with our soldiers and our people and our veterans here in the United States.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Could I just end up by saying I'm very honored to have this group of brave Americans with me. I'm more honored and as honored that you would be here and join us today. My friends, get into this debate. Get into this discussion that we're going to have in Washington. It's got to be a national debate. We have to win. Choose not to lose. We should choose not to lose and no surrender. Thank you very much, and God bless.